Oxfam says the world's super rich have enjoyed huge increases in their wealth, even as extreme poverty is on the rise again globally. The charity's report, Survival of the Richest, is being presented at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland. It shows that around 830 million people, in other words, almost 1 in every 10, are facing hunger and starvation. But since 2020, $42 trillion worth of global wealth has been created, and most of that, nearly 2/3, has gone to the richest 1% of the world population. The remaining third was shared by the 99% at the bottom. The total wealth of the richest worldwide has increased by an average of $2.7 billion per day. And Alex Maitland, Oxfam's inequality policy advisor and one of the authors of this report, joins us now from Reading in the UK. Welcome. The super rich, over the past couple of years of extreme crises, have managed to amass almost 2/3 of new wealth generated. How is that possible?
Oh, good evening. And yeah, I think the question of how we got here and this huge levels of global inequality, billionaire fortunes haven't increased because they become smarter or they're working harder. It's the workers who've been working harder, but for less money. And I think there's a couple of things which have really driven this massive level of inequality in the last few years, particularly, as you say, since the pandemic and now with the cost of living crisis. Firstly, the tax base for wealth and for the super rich has really declined, and the tax burden has been shifted onto ordinary people. Just 4 cents in every dollar is a tax on wealth, and in half the countries where billionaires live, there isn't any inheritance tax, which means the wealth can just continue to grow and grow. We've also seen that billionaires have been able to profit from the crisis. During the pandemic, governments were putting trillions of dollars into economies, and rightly so, protecting economies from collapsing. But a lot of that has meant that asset prices, particularly on shares and stocks and companies, has increased, which really benefits the super wealthy who tend to own those sorts of assets.
Yeah, I want to talk about the other side of the story, because there has been, for the first time in 2.5 decades, an increase in extreme poverty as well. What's driving that trend? Are these two interconnected?
Yeah, absolutely. So during the pandemic, we saw workplace closures around the world, supply chains closing down, and that story has continued with the cost of living crisis. 1.7 billion people now live in countries who are facing a real terms pay cut because of the cost of living crisis. And I think, as you say, these two things are very much connected. On the one hand, you've got companies, particularly in the food and energy industry, who are reaping massive windfall profits from inflation and really fueling inflation, and that's really causing suffering to many people. In just 3 months, last year, 70 million people were likely pushed into poverty because of the rising cost of living. And so, yes, as you say, these things are certainly connected, and a wealth tax on the richest could help protect those people who are suffering most from these crises.
How could the money that you propose, the super rich, contribute to society, help ease the pains of the remaining 99% of the population?
Well, I think there's a few ways that would work. Improving the social services and public spending on everything from sort of health to education, and most immediately on ensuring that people can afford food and energy. It would be very affordable from a wealth tax on the richest people in the world. Just a 5% tax on the wealth of the richest people in the world could raise $1.7 trillion, and that's enough to lift 2 billion people out of poverty. And so the money is certainly there if governments work together to tax the richest people in society and the companies which are making these windfall profits.
But the richest people are also known to find loopholes when it comes to paying taxes. Alex Maitland, Oxfam's inequality policy advisor, many thanks.
Thank you very much.